Welcome to this edition of Futurartist Records Presents. We have on this program talked about arts and education and the impact that arts have on learning and on culture. Joining me today are the founders of an international nonprofit whose focus is creating learning opportunities. Futurartist Records presents Felicity Muench and Dr. Gregg Cannady with One Voice for Change. Thanks for coming in.
Thank you. Thank you for having us.
We really appreciate being here.
You are so busy, so I really appreciate you making time to come up and do this. You've got some really cool stuff going on, so I'm glad we get a chance to talk about it.
Oh, well, thank you for having us.
You bet.
I'm never too busy to do something I love, and I'm never too busy to do something important.
Cool. Well, thanks. That's a great compliment. We're important now. That's awesome.
Yeah, this is our passion, so we
Cool.
really appreciate a venue to express what we're trying to do.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Why don't you let everybody know kind of who you are and what your background is, and then we'll dive into this One Voice for Change.
Okay. I am a classical guitarist, a professional musician, and I started taking classical guitar lessons at the age of 7. And I started because there was a guitar hanging on the wall of my parents' home, my home, and it was above an old Victrola.
Oh, cool.
And I was stepping up on the couch and stepping onto the Victrola and plucking the strings and I would just pluck and pluck. So my mother said, okay, either we put her up for adoption or we buy her a guitar.
Right.
So my dad bought a handmade classical guitar for me, and I started lessons September 1964.
Wow, that's awesome.
And I have continued being a professional musician since that day. When I was 11, I knew I wanted to teach. I was so inspired that I took manuscript paper, and they used to have a wire little binder, and little manuscript paper, and I was writing my own method book. So I was writing out exercises and scales, and
Wow.
I was writing out my own method book to start teaching. Well, I started teaching at 15, and I did not have a license. So my father would drive me to someone's home. He would wait in the car. I would go into their house and teach them.
Okay.
At 16, I got a job at a music store teaching guitar. So I would drop my father off at Sandia Base, where he worked, and then I would drive to high school. I would take the car, drive to the music store. Dad would meet me at the music store at 6 o'clock, and we would drive home, because I grew up in a small village outside of Albuquerque, between
Okay.
Albuquerque and Santa Fe.
Okay.
So then I went to college, University of New Mexico and California State University, Northridge. And then I became a string director, program director in Albuquerque at the Albuquerque Academy. And I taught violin, viola, and cello.
Oh, cool.
And directed the string program. And wound up in Colorado and started my own corporation, Musical Bouquet. And I go into hospitals and provide music for hospitalized patients.
Very cool.
And I teach. My passion is teaching. So right now I teach 7 days a week, almost 100 students a week.
Wow.
Yeah.
You are busy.
And then I started One Voice for Change in my spare time.
Wow, that's great.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, my story's not nearly that exciting. I sort of feel my life's been a bit of an accident, honestly. I've taught choir in high schools for many years. I was raised on a farm in eastern Colorado. I don't know, I feel like I'm still discovering how I can have the most impact on the world. But yeah, I love music, love the outdoors, love to make a difference in kids' lives.
Cool.
And hope to make a difference in the world with One Voice for Change.
Awesome. Awesome. So you both mentioned One Voice for Change. What is One Voice for Change?
We're a nonprofit that brings equal learning opportunities to children by creating partnerships to inspire learning and global citizenship.
Okay. And how does that, you're both are music backgrounds, and you're expanding into other things. So how do you create those opportunities?
Right now we've partnered with another organization in Belize, Pathlight International, and we went to Belize last month and worked with the children teaching guitar. You did choral, some
I
singing.
think we're just bringing people together. to do good things.
Right.
Okay.
So that's no different than music, right?
Right,
You
right,
come together,
absolutely.
you're in your band, you have to listen to each other, you have to work together as musicians, you have to create your passion together.
Right.
That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
And so we're listening a lot to teachers, to students, to schools, to countries, and working together to design what's best for everybody. And music has been great. It seems to open the door.
Yeah.
Right,
You can
yeah.
play
Yeah.
one note on a guitar and everyone smiles.
Yep.
Yeah.
So right away, it's the thing that unites the entire world. We all love music,
Yes.
and so we don't have to have any mistrust. Right away we're like, oh yes, I love music.
Yeah,
Let's
right.
talk.
Yeah, right,
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, and we do. We show up with a guitar, and both of us are guitarists, and everybody just loves it.
Cool,
Everybody.
cool. So it's a great starting for everything.
Mm-hmm.
That's fantastic.
Right.
You and I have talked about it a little bit, and I haven't heard how you ended up in the formula, so this will be interesting. So how did One Voice for Change come about, and when?
Gregg had me perform with him at a choral concert he was conducting in May of 2017. And one of the students had written a song called One Voice. And it was an incredibly powerful song. Gregg did a wonderful job putting this together. You helped co-write the song.
Yeah, it was at Regis University, and
Okay.
so, we were going to rehearse our songs and have a concert, and I said, wait a minute, everyone's all concerned about the world, so why don't we write an original song? Why
cool.
don't we have something about awareness, a chance for our voice to be heard, and our passions that I hear about after the rehearsals?
Right.
Why can't that be a part of the concert? So I threw an idea out there. We started putting together some sounds. I was also directing a STEM school music program.
Okay.
And so it was actually one of the STEM students that literally overnight took the concept and handed the lyrics to us the next day. And we didn't change like anything.
Wow,
And
that's
the
cool.
melody, the whole song was pretty much on the spot. It was one of those magic moments, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and I think when we performed it, we had a guest children's chorus from an inner city Denver school.
Okay.
We had
Yeah.
Regis University. We had STEM students there. We had guest musicians, which was Felicity. I had one of my friends who's a Persian musician who was playing. And so it was really people coming together. And, a part of what inspired the lyrics, in fact, a lot of what inspired the lyrics, was the work of Malala. And her quotes, and I'm probably getting it wrong, but the one pen, one book, one teacher can change the world.
Okay. Yeah.
And then we had also recently met with a couple of women who were victims of the Holocaust, and they had spoken to our school.
Wow.
And what the message that they left us with was, hey, this happened. Somebody could have spoke up. Somebody could have said, this is wrong.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the message I went away with, like, speak up for what's right and speak out against what's wrong. And so, and then the student, knowing all of this, just came back with the lyrics, like, no
Wow.
problem, I got
Wow.
this. And
That's
then
cool.
it developed. We had some Middle Eastern kind of scales. I threw in some technology because I'd been working with Ableton Live, so we had vocoding and
Gotcha.
so it was it was a fusion of different styles and different people, but all of us united in one cause, that we want the planet to be wonderful. We
Yeah.
want to be kind. We want to help each other. We want, and we felt that learning would be that way. The lyrics of the song say that. And I think when you heard that, obviously that really resonated with
And
you.
Yeah.
I wasn't part of the writing of the song. I just showed up for the performance. There wasn't a rehearsal or anything. I just
Oh, wow.
I just
Yeah,
showed
that's
up,
cool.
literally walked on stage and performed without any rehearsal. But the power of that song and the power that they sang and the inspiration at the end, it just was an instant standing ovation from the
Oh,
audience.
that's awesome.
instant. And the energy in that room is something I've never felt. Nothing have I ever felt something like that. And I stood up with my guitar, we all were bowing, and I realized I have a voice. And it was the first time I have really realized that I have the courage now to do something.
Interesting.
I have always done my passion. I've always done music. I've lived my life exactly how I wanted, but I missed the one ingredient, courage. And courage changes everything. So that one song gave me the courage, or gave me the ability to see that I've always had the courage. I just needed to access it.
Gotcha.
So I stood up and I realized immediately something is going to be done. I'm going to do something great. And everyone's applauding, and I'm just thinking, wow,
Yeah.
I transformed like that in an instant. So I went home and I couldn't sleep, and I was crazy thinking about things, and I didn't know where this was going to go. And I called Gregg and a few days later and said, you know, I think we could start a world movement. And he said, okay.
Sure, why not?
Why not? And I had no idea where this was going to exactly go. I knew it would deal with education.
Right.
I knew I had a voice, and I'm an educator. But from there, we sat at a kitchen table and literally started thinking and plotting and figuring things out. And this thing has grown and changed. Luckily, it has changed.
Right, sure.
And we have done so much in such a short time. It is amazing.
Yeah.
You know, looking at your site and talking to you about some of the things that you have done that we'll get to, it really has happened really quickly. It's really impressive.
It's almost shocking.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Sometimes I pinch myself because I think, oh my goodness. I mean, even today, I just noticed donations have come in, just within a few minutes. I
think a part of it is our hands-on approach, and we empower students. Students have always been ready for change, right?
Right.
We slow them down. Systems slow them down. Institutions slow them down. So, of course, it's going to move quick if we just recognize that the students want this.
Right.
Open the doors of opportunity and start facilitating their passion.
Right.
They're ready.
Right.
Yeah.
Open the floodgates. Here it comes.
Excuse me. Speaking of that, and I'm making some assumptions in my head in what I think the response is going to be, but who are you helping through this, and how? How are you doing that?
anyone who wants to learn.
Okay.
We thought when we started, we thought we were helping someone else.
Right.
I'll be honest with you. After a little bit of time in rural Mexico, I was being helped.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, I'm learning about culture. I'm learning about humanity. I'm learning about myself, and so it was a bit overwhelming.
Wow.
So I think we're the voice for change. Maybe it's a child's voice. But maybe it's the adult voice who needs the aha moment like Felicity had, who needs the courage to follow through with something that really helps the world. So I don't know, I think it is all-consuming.
Has that changed your focus from when you had that aha moment? Were you thinking in terms of high school kids or things like that during that aha moment, and then once you've started things, did it shift?
I think it has refined. Yeah, the idea has refined. When I first started, I just knew I wanted to work in education somehow.
Okay.
Something. But yes, I think the whole thing is turned around so that we are all educated. We are all seeing things that we never saw before.
Right.
So we're all learning. We're all
Gotcha.
learning.
That's awesome. That's cool when that happens, because it's probably not what you went into it thinking at all, which is good.
Yeah, that's true, because children... I've always thought that I love who I work with, because every day I work with students who want to learn, young and old. So I have the best possible job, because everybody comes to me because they want to, and they want to learn. So now I'm just doing it on a global level.
Yeah. Oh, wow, that's cool.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
Oh, no, go
As a
ahead.
lifelong teacher,
Yeah.
we have special training in telling people what to do. So for me, the change has been to stop that. And instead listen and act on some things that I learned by listening. So
gotcha.
yeah, it's changed. It's changed how I am as a teacher too.
Sure, sure.
In school settings.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right.
We had talked before the show a little bit about some of the places you've been, and how your vision was that you can make a change, and there are changes that need to be made. So, how urgent is the need to create a worldwide educational partnership, and why? And I had to read that to make sure I got it right, because it's a pretty specific goal.
Mm-hmm.
So
Don't get me going here. No, I'm serious.
It's very it's
no. I mean,
incredibly
look at our
urgent.
world.
Yeah,
Look.
yeah.
I
Yes.
mean, we're in crisis in so many areas right now. We're polarized in politics. We're, to think that the industries are just saying, oh, yes, we should value our employees now. We should do this, and it should be more than the bottom line. Things like that are happening.
Yeah.
Our world needs this so bad. How can you do it? It's got to be the youth. It's got to be through education. It can't be fixing broken systems.
Yes.
Right,
That's
gotcha.
never going to happen, right? But I think the next generation and helping them to know how to collaborate, how to work together, how to listen, I think that's the key. So it's insanely urgent. We feel that every day.
You can't change what you can tolerate.
Right.
Right.
You see the urgency on the surface more when you're in like rural Mexico and you're in a school where maybe it's really hot and there's no air conditioning and kids are crowded into a room and they don't have the materials they need and those kind of things. That's one kind of urgency. But the other kind of urgency that those same children have in common with the most privileged students in the United States, the caring for the planet, for humanity, for like how are we going to work together, they all get that there are things that are wrong that they want to solve. They don't know how to solve them.
Right.
And I don't think they know where to go to for support.
Right.
And that's our job. It's like let's create some partnerships so they have
A
the
voice.
support and so they have their voice.
Yeah. So do you find that going through the educational part of it, that you start building, and this might be a fairly obvious question and answer, but that you begin creating relationships that kind of grow and flourish on their own once they are allowed to make that connection.
Yes.
That's
because
success.
the connection is
Yeah.
that's success, and it's safe.
Right.
And it's empowering. Because kids don't know where to go. They don't know what
Right.
to do next. They don't know. But they just need something to hold on to.
Right.
And so we're providing that.
Right.
We saw
And-
that in Las Vegas.
Yes.
This is what's so cool.
Yeah.
So like about 3 weeks ago, I get this long email from Edgar. Edgar's like helping to run El Colegio Patria in Las Vegas. And so,
The school.
when we first started, it's like, okay, somebody answer an email,
Right,
or like, what are we going to do? Nobody has a plan. And then now Edgar's sending me this email with attachments about, now we're going to do environmental science here. We're going to go get this lake as a national preserve in Mexico. And then we want robotics. And then the students have decided they want to do this. And it's like, oh my goodness.
Interesting. Yeah.
It's exploded.
So now I feel like, well, let's get out of the way.
Right.
Our job is not to do anything but like celebrate what they've done, and they're building their own relationships that work for them. Doesn't even have to be one voice for change.
Interesting.
But just
Right,
the fact
right.
that they've
Right.
seen the power of friendship, relationships, listening to students, creating opportunity. For us, that's the ultimate success.
So when you go in, when you started, since you're both musicians, and you use that kind of as a starting point, how do I say this? How did you use that with the One Voice for Change plan? Did you go in with an end goal and just start by singing and then starting to expound on your idea, or did you go in with your idea saying we're wanting to give educational opportunities, and what we're going to do is just kind of sit around and brainstorm, and we're going to sing some songs while we do it?
It was very free.
Okay.
It was we did not have a recipe. We just knew that our impact, showing up, would have an impact.
Gotcha.
Just connecting
Gotcha.
with people, just letting people be who they are, and not having an agenda. So we made the connections. Don't you agree?
Yeah,
we
and
worked-
it's still a learning curve, because like I said earlier, relating to education, we've been taught to create
Right.
the lesson, the plan, the strategy. And when you're building relationships and trust, and you're listening to somebody else's values, and you're hand in hand finding solutions for each other, you can't have that approach. You can't script it. You can't
Right.
come in with
Yeah.
your agenda. And so we're getting better at that. We were recently in rural Colorado, and I still am trying to figure out, did we do the right thing? I think we did. We went out to Lyman, Colorado, and worked with an organization, they're called BOCES. They bring together multiple kids from all these rural schools. And they came in there, and our session was music and animation.
Oh, cool.
And so we had an environmental scientist with us. We had some professional musicians. And we had some technology to animate with some music and things like that.
Yeah.
And I wanted the teacher in me wanted to script it and say, we're going to write a musical. It's going to be called this. And at the end of the day, we'll perform it, and everyone will applaud.
Right.
But instead, we went to every child and said, what do you love? And we introduced ourselves so they'd see who we were and have some trust.
Yeah.
What do you really love? What's your thing?
Yeah.
And then we let them divide up in groups, and we let them do things, even though it wouldn't have been the plan that I would
Right.
have made.
Right.
And so it was high risk, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But we knew it was successful when the organizers of this said, okay, it's time for lunch. And they just kept working.
Right. Right. Yeah.
And so, okay,
Yeah.
does anyone need a break? No,
Yeah.
they're still like doing it.
Yeah.
So, for us, it was like, this was the right thing to do. It wasn't the product that looks all shiny and nice and
Right,
packaged, but the kids felt excited.
Yeah.
An adult cared about them.
Right.
Their passion for learning, their passion for collaboration.
And
That
allowed
worked.
them to do it.
Yeah.
And we were in groups, and I was part of the group that came up with a story, and they had to draw the story out. And then I helped create the music that goes to the story.
Okay.
And they just could not stop writing. I mean, we had stacks of paper, and
Oh,
it
that's
was
awesome.
just, and pencils and colored pencils everywhere. And I can't draw a stick figure, but I said, okay, guys, you've created this. How does, do you want this sound with that? Yes. And we just all worked together. And then each group, you had your group. Each adult facilitated and kind of helped,
Right.
but the kids drove it.
I came away saying, wow, what would one more day be like with them? Because we got to know them in one day. I mean, we really got to
Right.
know
Yes.
them. I could tell you what their passions were. The things that are they would do. They would remove all obstacles to make sure that this got done. And so, what do you do with that energy the day after? It's like, I
Right,
know.
right.
Now, come on, day 2.
Yeah,
Now
yeah.
I know what we can do. And then, as facilitators, that's where you bring in more subject matter experts. That's where you take their passion and you help them mold their passion into something that's going to be really useful to their community,
Right.
to their education, and to a vision of how they're going to interact with the world in the future.
Right.
Right.
What's been the hardest part of this?
Well, how long do we have?
Right.
I think that one word in our title, one voice for
Right.
Change.
Yeah.
change. Humans are biased to
Yes.
change in general. And so the instant that you're trying to do something maybe that people haven't done or that, there's some defense, and it's usually from adults.
Sure.
And
Yes.
it's usually from
Yeah.
institutions, and
Yeah.
sometimes in where we've been, it's actually even been policy, governments, things like that.
Sure,
Yeah.
yeah,
That
yeah.
really are, this is how we do it.
Right.
And we don't, but you break down those walls of mistrust and you start working with the kids. And the great thing is the kids, they don't have a job to protect.
Yes.
They're not trying to push their policy.
Right.
They're not trying to sell you anything. So it has a magic way of bringing everybody together for the common good. And so, so for me, the challenge has been adults and change.
Yeah. And change. Right. Right.
And it's interesting because so many people will stay on the straight and narrow. They
Right.
just don't. They just want things to be one way. They just go one step at a time. And it reminds me, I used to race motorcycles,
Yes.
ride and race motorcycles. So my father and I were in Utah, and I got ahead of him, and I saw this big open area, and the trail went off to the side, and I thought, well, just go straight. I'll get from here to there much quicker. Well, I drove right into a huge quicksand pool.
Oh my gosh.
So, and I was going down.
Yeah.
So I was in quicksand. Well, I realized that if you continually go straight, you're not going to go where you thought you would wind up. And, you know, life is the same way. When you have rules, you know, things must be done this way, and I'm just going to keep going straight. Number one, you have blinders on and you don't see what's around you. Number two, you have no idea. Maybe what's ahead of you is not what you want, like a pile of quicksand.
Right.
And so you have to be flexible. But change is such a scary word because people either don't have the courage, they don't know what to do, they're worried they're going to be told what to do.
Right.
Change is a very strange word. It's a very, very hard word for people to hear.
Yeah, it's intimidating.
It really is intimidating.
Do you go into these projects with guidelines in mind? Or do you go in just saying, it's a free-for-all and we're going to end up where we end up? Because you talk about how structured teaching is, but, but at the same time...
We're clarifying vision and intent and approach. That you have to have your act together there.
Right.
You have to know that you're going to listen to somebody.
Right.
You're going to immerse yourself in their values. You're going to make sure you understand all the other forces at play in their situation.
Right.
You know, I'm going to come in and we're going to do computer science. Well, it's 104 degrees and the humidity's really high. Maybe there's some other things we should consider. You know, maybe their mind is on something else. So in order to get to the target, you might have to really be aware of so much more than you thought you were going to do. But yeah, the core values are there. You know, we believe in children. We believe in their passion. We believe in empowering their voice. We believe that adults should facilitate learning and not just tell people what to do.
Right.
So and then we do our homework before we go somewhere. So that we're not blind. And we try right off the bat to develop relationships with who might be those facilitators on the other side.
Right. And the main thing is creating trust, because people have to trust you.
And it affects the way you learn whether you do or don't have trust. Absolutely.
Of course.
Yes.
At this stage, and I know we talked about some other areas you're heading into, but at this stage, your base has been primarily music-oriented and building off of that. How do the arts help break down barriers and bring hope and strength and the courage to these students?
There are no walls with music. Music is such a universal language. And instruments bring people together. Just seeing a guitar, kids will gather around immediately. Just everybody gathers around instruments. Everybody can enjoy music. Everybody loves music.
Do you get the same excitement level and interest no matter where you go with kids?
Yes.
You know?
Yeah, with music, yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Absolutely.
Yeah, I've been amazed at how instantly it just breaks down the walls.
And then that allows you to bring in your other avenues of education and
then you
things.
can open it up for virtually anything. And maybe that's, I don't know what the reason is. It could be just that we're humans and it's always been that way for thousands of years. It could also be because music in curriculums, in countries, in educational systems has been that release of passion and creative energy, or maybe it's because music is the thing they do when they go home from school, and they really want to have a lot of fun, and so or they want to find themselves. I'm not sure, or maybe it's a combination of all of that. But for whatever reason, it's opened doors in ways that I couldn't have imagined.
That's awesome.
And kids love touching instruments. They will grab any percussive instrument, guitars, anything. They'll go over to a keyboard, start making sounds. I mean, it is an instant attraction.
That's awesome. What ages are you focusing on? You had mentioned earlier pretty much anybody who wants to learn, but going into it and being interested in children, do you have age groups that you focus on, or?
So far, we've worked with middle school and high school.
Okay.
And elementary, the Chicala, the musical that we
Oh, that's
wrote with
true.
them, it was elementary, and even Las Varas and El Colegio Patria. My bias is this. Everybody gets involved with high school age for various reasons. Oh, you got to go make it on your own, or like we want to employ you, or you know, the obvious reasons. But the younger kids are the ones where they're identifying, who am I?
Right.
They are curious. Take a kindergarten student, for instance. They love everything. You bring in a leaf and put it on your hand, and everyone's pushing and shoving to get to it, to look at it. What is that? What does it do? What if I do this with it?
Right.
You know, so they're the ultimate example of advanced learners.
Right, for sure. Yeah.
And curious people, and the very kind of people that make great musicians, right?
Yeah.
And name a lot of great musicians who don't have that same love for the unknown and solving a problem. And so, yeah, I think younger students for sure. But it is all ages.
It is all ages, and we've worked with older, like Belize was older.
Yeah, the program in Belize was high school students, but we went around to a lot of schools where they have a preschool program there that they're doing in Belize, and the potential is amazing there. So my thought when we went down there was, let's get into that, because the solutions that are being solved by Pathlight International in Belize do focus with a select group of high school age students that are drawn from several places.
Right.
But yet, the younger kids, they don't really have a plan in place yet. They do work with their teachers, which we are going to work with their teachers too.
Yes.
But there's so much more that can be done. It's the same in the United States.
Sure.
It's the same in every country we've been to.
Yeah.
It's like, it's so much easier to see those connections between adult life and a high school senior than a third grader.
Right.
But in reality, the third grader is able to process thoughts in ways that adults can't do. So this is the time for change.
Yeah, for sure.
That's right. It was wonderful to go to all the different schools. We went to so many schools, and we talked to the teachers, and it was amazing, the joy and the passion they have, and they wanted to work with us. So we will be back.
And I was going to ask you that. Have you gotten good responses
Yes.
from the teaching and from
Yes.
from the teachers in the facilities and stuff?
Yes.
They've been.
Yeah.
Do you find that you have to get a little interest and then go down and actually get response, or do they respond pretty quickly when you present them with the idea of coming in?
Belize responded very quickly. I initiated the initial response or investigation. I worked on trying to find out what was in Belize and how I could help in Belize. And I found Pathlight International. And so I just picked up the phone and called them. So I had filled out an information form online. And then I realized that's just going to sit in someone's email. So I just picked up the phone and called. And one woman who helps run the organization is in Kentucky.
Oh, interesting.
And she and I just hit it off right away.
Okay.
So she said, let me put you in touch with Brian in Belize, and we would love to have you come down. And then I turned to Gregg and said, well, Gregg, I've been in touch with Belize. You want to go? And he
pack
said,
your bags. We're going to
Sure.
Belize.
I'm up for anything.
Sure. So I set that up, but they were very thrilled to have us.
To answer your question in another way too, relationships, friendships, partnerships, they develop at different times.
Right.
Even when you're across the street from somebody, right?
Sure, absolutely.
And so I think that's the lesson for humanity that we're discovering. We're learning from, like, wait a minute, it's not about me and my agenda. It's about what do I need to do to build that relationship, to build that trust, to design something that's meaningful for everybody. So the pace is very different. Sometimes it moves really fast, and sometimes you think it's never going to move.
Right. And that's kind of where I was headed with that, because before you can work with the kids, you've got to work with the adults to get to the kids, and you fall into patterns of thinking and doing things, and so.
Well, if you understand, if you're open and you understand the other side and what they're going through, then that creates trust and conversation.
Sure. Yeah.
Oh, and
So-
just the overwhelming things that we have to learn from everywhere else. Oh my goodness.
Right.
Yeah.
Every time
Yeah.
you set foot in another culture, every time you hear another person's perspective, it challenges your own. It makes you a better person.
Yeah.
So, I mean, infinite opportunities for us to learn as
Right.
humans, for us to hopefully have a positive impact on children.
Yeah.
And I don't know, I see this is something I wish that aha moment would happen with everybody.
Right. Yeah.
But I think if we can spark a brain, a child's brain, or just a few children, once that spark hits, it will spread.
Right. Especially with children, because they don't have the obstacles that adults create
Right.
for ourselves
Yeah.
or and each other.
That's right.
And you've created something that's designed to be international, and you've kind of gone into this, but talk about some of the places you've been and what the effect of your work has had on those places. And I made some notes here because on our conference call the other day, you showed the picture of the girl who had drawn the bird.
Oh, yeah.
And the
yeah.
connections that were made there. So it's
Yeah.
not just guitar and stuff, and we'll dive even more into that in a second. But
Right.
talk about some of the places and some of the things you've seen come out of, of that.
Yeah.
Well, the picture you're referring to was a young girl in a school in Jakarta, and we had arranged for what's called a synchronous connection. So we had teleconferencing equipment that we had set up in Mexico, and that we also had in a STEM school in Colorado, and teacher. She's a PhD science teacher. She's amazing. She has a passion for all things to do with birds.
Cool.
And has an after-school club all about birds.
Okay.
And it's very artistic. They're all, let's illustrate birds. And her own illustrations are off the charts great, right?
Wow, cool.
So they had a session just to talk about birds.
Yeah.
Well, there's birds in Mexico. There's birds here.
Right.
And there's some birds that we have in common. And let's just get excited, talk about science and birds. Well, this young girl named Monse was sitting there quietly, watching everything, and the session was over. A couple of days later, she walks in with this beautiful photo of a crow.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
And her teachers are like, we didn't even know you painted. Not alone that it's like an amazing
Yeah,
painting.
yeah.
Artist
And it
anywhere
wasn't
in
a
the
little
world look
tiny
at it.
sketch. It was big.
It was like,
It's
Yeah.
beautiful.
I would buy that painting.
Yeah.
I would spend a lot of money on that painting.
Right.
And so, nobody had asked for her passion. Nobody
Right.
had taken the time. Everyone was so concerned with making her do something.
Right.
That the instant she was allowed to just like interact with people
Yeah.
from another country, another teacher, through wildlife, through science, through her own passion just came out. And at that point, it's unstoppable.
Yeah.
And she was inspired, and it takes courage.
sure.
Again,
yeah,
it takes
to
courage
put
to
yourself out
draw
like that. Yeah.
something and then say, "This is what I drew."
Yeah. Absolutely.
And so,
I would say Tate is a story that's related to this.
yep, Tate.
A young rural student in Colorado, and he's living in it's pretty remote area. There's no town where his school is at.
Okay.
And he has a passion for music, science, technology, you name it.
I teach him guitar lessons synchronously.
Okay.
And,
Oh, that's cool.
So anyway, through the connections that he's had, he was second place in an international science competition. Lockheed Martin Waterton campus gave him like a 5.5-hour tour because he had somehow gotten a hold of some downed weather balloon thing, and he had gone up in his room and he had accessed the satellites and he had pulled off images and he'd done all of this stuff. And so it's like, and
Yeah.
he had connected with an engineer from Lockheed, and all of a sudden he realized, hey, yeah, I can do this. And I really want to do this. And again, an unstoppable force that just needed opportunity, needed
Right.
a few adults that said they care, with the guitar
Yes.
and with Felicity and the lessons she's doing. And I don't know, there are so many stories.
There's so many stories.
That's
Ruben's
great.
another story.
Yeah. Oh, Ruben was in
my goodness.
Mexico in Las Varas at El Colegio, and he loves music. And we all taught him guitar, worked with him on guitar. He just blossomed. And now he wants to become a music teacher.
Oh, cool.
And he's
We went down to visit after we had done some sessions of music, and you know, we thought, well, this is great. They're enjoying music, and we did a little concert with our friend of ours, Alfredo Mora, who's a professional guitarist, and that went well. And then we went back again. He said, I want to be a music teacher, and by the way, my parents are driving me all the way to this other town for piano lessons.
Wow. Yeah.
And then coming back, and their entire family, his entire vision of himself. I guess it's another unstoppable kind of force.
Yeah.
But it was so moving to me to think that I didn't really think we made that big of a difference until you find out that what they did with this little bit. We thought it was a very little bit of opportunity that we were donated guitars.
Yeah, we
been there a few
donated
times, and so it's like
Yeah.
I wish we could do more, but apparently it's stuck.
Yeah. Well, and now he understands how that works on the receiving end, and he can pass it, pass it along as well. That's fantastic.
Well, that's what he's doing. That's what his teachers, and it's actually not just in guitar. So he's become a leader in his school for science, for the robotics things, for just leadership as far as how to be nice to other kids at school.
Right. Yeah.
And when we did a session, he was in a session with a Spanish teacher from a school in the States, and it was an American class that was studying Spanish, and El Colegio Padre, who was studying English, and like, how do we learn from each other, right?
Yeah, cool.
And so they started doing this, and all of a sudden the people in Colorado, the kids in Colorado were like, Ruben! You know, they identified him as a leader, just how he was holding himself, that confidence that he had. And I'm sure he had a lot of that before we went in, but it really blossomed when somebody paid attention and tried to help him with opportunities.
Right. Yeah. You talk about synchronous learning and setting things up that way and whatever. Explain that a little bit and talk about how, I wrote a different question down revolving around this, but as we've gone forward, how important is that in what you're doing, and what results have you seen come from that? I mean, our call the other day, that was the first time I had done that, but it allows a lot of things to happen you wouldn't normally be able to do. So if you could go a little bit further on that.
I have lessons online to Canada, London, Mexico, Belize, San Antonio, California. I can't remember now.
Wow.
But I do that, and it's the connection. It's still, you're paying attention to a student. You're hearing them. You're able to guide them. You're able to encourage them. So it really is an amazing, and I think you do have to have the one-on-one connection. You got to have adults there. But when we leave and we stay in touch with the children and stay in touch with people, just synchronously, because we can't be there all the time, they still look forward to it. They're all around the computer. Oh, it's 3:15. Felicity's on.
Yeah.
So forget what you know about online learning, because this is not it.
Right.
Okay.
So this is using technology to connect humans. And so, it's better, and I wish we could just like travel all over and plant ourselves in communities and just be there for every need that everyone has. But we can't. And some of the adults that want to help, and they can't do that either. So how do you support them when you can't physically be there? Well, we've got this thing called the internet, and we've got cameras and microphones and other things like that allow you to feel like you're there. You experienced it for a little bit. A part of my other life was developing a room called the Sync with the help of Polycom.
I'm glad you said that. I was going to bring that up.
Aver and Polycom and Zoom and other companies. And by the way, we really want to thank Aver. They donated all these room systems that we're going to be able to take to Belize.
Oh, cool.
2 room systems they've already donated in Mexico. But just the research I did, I was teaching in a school, and I said, the kids in this school seem to be really having fun. They have great teachers. They have a lot of technology. Man, I wish that could be everywhere.
Right.
And so the goal was, how can it be everywhere?
Right. Right.
And so I did start with rural Colorado, and that's where Tate comes into the picture. And right now it's multiple schools.
Yeah.
But also we found out, oh gosh, by the way, even for the school that already has technology and teachers, you want a subject matter expert from across the world to speak into what you're doing. Hey,
Right.
I'm interested in medicine. I wonder what a surgeon thinks about this question.
Right.
Why not?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And so the same kind of approach for us is, I think, it makes us unique, because we don't fly in, do stuff, fly
Right.
out, and hope it sticks.
Right.
We fly in, we do stuff, we build relationships, and then we check in often.
Yeah.
Right.
It kind of helps you
Right.
troubleshoot later down the road. That way
Yeah,
as well.
and
Yeah.
so
So it's mentorships.
yeah,
I mean,
Yeah.
it's relationships and mentorships, you name it. So it's not anyone telling anyone else what to do.
Right.
right.
We're
Right.
just connecting.
Right. In letting people know, okay, you started kind of with music, you wanted to do education, you've seen some other things, the Birds Without Across Borders.
Birds
Birds
Without
across-
Borders. Oh
Yes,
my goodness!
right.
Don't
Yes.
get me going.
You know,
That's a
things-
whole nother
yeah.
show.
Right, yeah. And so, you've done some of those things that now are outside of music, but are in the education realm. And so it's starting to expand, which is incredible how that all is working and how quickly it's working. But on that vein, what are your goals now because of that? And what are your expectations?
Well, goals now is to get more partnerships. I want to get the word out to more schools, especially locally. I really
We
want
talked
to.
about on the way to your studio that, like, we live in Lafayette. Our board members are in Lafayette. It's like there's so much we could do in our very own community
Sure,
to
yeah.
grow as people and learn how to affect change globally in a more meaningful way. So yeah, there are so many things that we want to do, and I think we're going to stay flexible and learn from everyone else. We're going to listen.
Right.
But wow, we've got a long list of, like, we've seen what is possible. Oh my goodness, there's a lot to do.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, and once one thing takes off, the flames shoot off this way, and
Right.
but
Yeah.
we want to do this, and so yeah, we have to.
Yeah.
I'm new at this. I've never been an executive director of a nonprofit, so literally I'm learning as I go. Every
Yeah.
day is brand new.
Sure. Yeah.
So
you guys are doing a great job so far, I got to tell you. It's really cool.
thank you. But my immediate goal is to reach out to schools in Lafayette and affect more the
Plant stuff a little bit more locally.
Yeah, Lafayette, even Louisville, Erie, but Lafayette, I want to really
Yeah.
focus on that.
Interesting.
And then keep up relationships with Belize and Mexico.
Right,
And rural
right.
Colorado.
I think I would like your listeners to think deeply about what they're currently doing, and then is it possible that they could say, here are some changes that I think would be meaningful. How do I do that? And it might not have anything to do with one voice for change.
Sure.
But I think we all need to look in the mirror and say, could I do more as a human?
Right.
Once
Yes.
you've paid your mortgage, once your job is secure, once you're in a position where you've got some bandwidth to think about other people, and especially children and
Yeah.
the future of this planet, what could you do?
Yeah.
And then I think if you do that, you're going to say, oh, there are infinite opportunities
Yes.
to make a difference.
Yeah.
And we're just one entity that's trying to do that.
Right.
And
Right.
and we can help through our the fire that we've walked through,
Yeah.
the mistakes we've made,
Yeah.
Yeah.
the successes we've had, the way we're trying to readjust and build relationships. And so we welcome anybody at any level,
Yeah.
in any field, to partner with us.
Yeah.
Let's get something done, because it has to be together.
Right. Right.
It has to be
Yeah.
together.
That was great. A great way to close things out,
Yeah.
because my next question is going to be, after you've said that, people are watching, how do people find you? How can they reach out to you? How can they, if they want to get involved, how can they get involved with you folks?
Yes, our website is One Voice for, the number 4.
Okay.
onevoiceforchange.org.
Okay.
And our website has a lot of information on it.
Cool.
And please, contact me. You can call me, you can email me. I would love to hear from anybody
Cool.
who wants to.
And it's
help
not
out.
just music, it's not
No.
just you know,
No.
some of the things we've talked about now, but you really are going in a lot of different directions. Music, anything that's in the arts, science, any of that stuff.
And music is a part of all that, right?
Absolutely.
That's what I'm
Yeah.
discovering as a
Yeah.
musician is like, wow, I have a whole different definition of music now because
Sure.
of this.
Yeah.
So yeah, the call to action is get a hold of us.
Yeah.
Check out our current places that we're trying to work in. See what you can do to help. Have a conversation with any of us. You know, get involved in any level that you want to. Give us suggestions of other places that you
Right.
say
Yes.
this place would really benefit from opportunity or from building of relationships and community.
Right.
And they're receptive to that. I was at a cybersecurity conference
Oh, wow.
in Arizona with some students actually this last week. And I had a professor from a university in Brazil come up to me and say, oh, well, have you heard about the trash pickers and the kids out there and all of that? And I said, by the way, music would be the perfect way to help them out of their situation.
Yeah,
It's something that everyone has a passion for, and there's probably something you can do. I don't know what that's going to be yet, but man,
Sure.
we're thinking about it.
Yeah.
And
but
so is he.
it brought
Yeah,
awareness
like-
to it, if nothing
Right.
else. Yeah,
Pull-
absolutely.
Pull
Absolutely.
together
Right.
so we can do something.
Yeah.
One of our volunteers right now is a professional editor, and she said, "I'll rewrite or edit anything you need. Well,
Cool.
I'll look over anything that you write," and she's been a huge help
Cool.
for just writing and ideas and editing.
Yeah.
Where we won't find a little mistake, and she
Right.
will.
Right.
Another volunteer is a kinder music teacher, and she said, "I will help in any way I can." So everybody has something they can do.
Oh yeah.
Cool.
Everybody
Good.
has
and I'm
something.
glad you addressed that. So,
Right.
thank you so much for coming in today.
Thank you
And
for
we
having
definitely
us.
need to have you back because there are so many things we haven't even touched on
We
yet.
would love to come back.
Cool. Very
Yeah,
cool. And
we
then
would love
we
to
can
come
even
back.
play maybe.
We can have
Next
a
time
lot
would
of
be
good
fun.
times jamming together,
Cool.
making a little music.
Yeah.
We really want to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Bring some kids up here. That would be
Oh
fun.
yeah,
too.
that'd be
Oh,
fantastic.
that would be great.
Yeah,
And we'd love to
absolutely.
perform the song One Voice.
Yes,
that was
that
the
would be great,
inspiration
too.
for this
Yes.
entire
Yeah.
organization. Yeah.
Thanks. I appreciate it. I look forward to having you on again.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you.
Folks, stick around. We're going to have all their contact information on. Look into their website. If you have any interest in helping them in any way, please do. Reach out to them. If you need to reach out to me, I can put you in touch with them, anything that needs to be done. And there's so many opportunities. So make sure you look at the contact information, reach out to them, comment on what we've done today. And as always, like, share, subscribe. And thank you so much for watching Futurartist Records Presents.
I raise my voice so others may hear. One voice,